we are here to talk about advocacy and references and reviews. So I figured we'd just try to see, um, has anyone tried anything new lately that they'd want to share or talk about with these things?
Yeah, I'm especially curious on how people get more G2 reviews. Right now, it's a very haphazard method for us to get it. So right before the deadline, I just email a bunch of NPS respondents and be like, hey, can you fill out the G2 review? You get a $50 gift card. Not great response. I had better response when I said, I'll give you some kind of swag versus the gift card, even though the swag was cheaper than $50. I think I had about a 15% or 20% response rate for the swag, but then for the gift card, which I mean, like $50 is a lot of money. I'll do a survey for that much, but only like 5% of the people respond. So I know that I'm trying to work with the CSMs and the AMs to like build it into their workflows to, hey, after a QBR or like after you have a successful call with a customer, point them to the G2 and get them to fill it out. But not a lot of success so far. So I'm wondering what other people are doing.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I know we've talked about that before too. Um, Michelle, I know Michelle. She's from Elation, and I'm wondering, have you had any success with G2 lately that you have?
Unfortunately, no. We have tried we've tried semi-targeted campaigns for people who have finished our Elation University courses. Yeah, and it's basically we're just not getting responses. What seems to get responses is direct emails from the AE, the account executives that already know the customer. And one thing I was going to ask in this group, the reason I was like, oh, this is perfect. How do people deal with the fact that, you've got G2, you've got Trust Radius, you've got Gartner Peer Insights. Right now we had a survey for Dresner, which is a big IT analyst firm, and we are desperately striving to get 30 surveys done for Bark. And hopefully I'm not talking to anybody from one of our competitors. But so it's like constant. So, and I hate to say we ended up, this is such a gross term, we literally ended up shooting our wad on this Bark survey because sorry, I was in the Army. But on this Bark survey, because we're so desperate, if we don't get 30 survey responses, we're not in their report, and it's a very important report for EMEA. So it's like, how do you balance all of those? And you've got to keep G2 going, and you have to keep them all going throughout the year. So one of the things that we're hoping to do is try to automate the communication, or at least alert the account executive, like, okay, you've completed, we call it right start, you've completed implementation, now send this email, just automatically, here's the email, we wrote it for you, send it, CC me, and hope that 5% of them do that. For G2, and then later on for Trust Radius, and then if they renew, have them do it for Gartner Peer Insights, kind of prioritize them. But I do not have a solution. I just have more questions.
Yeah. Does
How do you
anyone
balance them all and not piss off your customers? Because at this point,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah, I have some insights there, in a very similar position, have tried very similar things to both of you. What I did in terms of balancing review sites, I reached out to Trust Radius and G2 and had them send me geographic breakdowns of their audience, and like a breakdown by SMB versus mid-market versus enterprise. And we have a very global audience at my company. So like, for example, Capterra has a much more international presence, as well as Trust Radius. So Last quarter, I surveyed or I sent a Trust Radius email to everyone except for US and then focus on US for G2. And same with enterprise, I segmented it so that enterprise customers got the Trust Radius request and then SMB and mid-market got G2. Not perfect, but at least there's like a rhyme or a reason behind like, the madness or whatever, a method behind the madness, if you will. And then for driving more reviews, I am struggling specifically with G2 right now as well. Oh, one more thing. We have a really good relationship with our Trust Radius account manager. And every month when we meet, I do ask them, okay, like, where are we at? Do we need more reviews right now? And you can look and they can show you exactly where you're at. And like point blank, they told us last quarter, like, you guys are good. Like, you're already about to receive this award. So if anything, maybe try to get a few. So that's where I lean on our AMs to just get us a few and then do the bigger campaign for G2. But yeah, right now I work with G2 to do the vendor run campaigns just because it's less of a lift. But this quarter I'm thinking about doing like one from either HubSpot or Outreach and offering swag, to your point, Justine. I think that's a good idea to try out. But other than that, there is a G2 Pendo integration. We use Pendo at my company that I've been looking into. I just haven't had the bandwidth to like set everything up because I know you have to like attach it to a certain flow that already exists and not messaging wise. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a really big project. But I know that could drive a lot of reviews. We printed out these little postcards to distribute at 2 events that we went to in March, but unfortunately 0 customers went to either of those events. So we didn't have any luck with that. But yeah, I'm definitely also looking for like innovative and new ideas. G2 also offers a service like your account manager can create unique tracking links for each of your account managers or AEs so that you can know, when they do need to get incentivized. But when I ran a little promo for that last month, I didn't have any luck. So again, a mixed bag on like what works and what doesn't, but that's my experience.
So I've tried the sponsored email sends with G2 and we've got like 2 responses out of like 200 people. So it's like really, really low. So I kind of stopped doing that. What's your experience been? Do you get a decent amount of people filling it out from those G2 emails?
We actually did. So I started at Canto in July, and before I started, they did do like emails from HubSpot with okay success rates. But when I started the vendor run, I think we got the highest amount of reviews we had gotten in like 2 years. But I do think that does come down to like the quality of the emails prior to when I arrived and all of that. But yeah, I mean, that might be, just relative to our audience. Like it was a very low response rate. I think it was probably like 1 or 2% because we sent the email to like 3,000 people. So 50 at the end of the day wasn't really that many. So yeah, I think it will be interesting to try out, an email coming from us. But the one downside to that is like G2, they know who already has left reviews and they won't send them emails. And for us, it's like, we have no way of knowing that. So it's like, you kind of have to email everyone, which I did see as a downside.
Yeah. One other tactic I'm trying out is we have user groups. So we have one coming up. I was going to print a QR code linked to a G2 review site and put them on Starbucks cards. So first they get a Starbucks card if they even like kind of agree on site to do it. And then they would get the $50 Amazon card after they complete the review. So it's kind of like 2-punch approach.
So how much would the Starbucks card be?
It's $25, so substantial.
So they'd get like $75 for leaving you a review.
Yeah.
I'll do
So
it for
do
you.
you, seriously, do you, Justine, how do you track whether or not a person has actually left a review? Because when I tried out the QR codes at events, like we had to put on there like, oh, if you leave an anonymous review, you'll have to email us to confirm that you did in fact leave one.
So the Starbucks cards, I'm just going to talk to people. If they agree, then I'll give them the Starbucks cards on like good faith. And then when they actually leave the review, it's the incentivized link. So G2 will mail them a $50 Amazon card.
Got it.
So,
Okay.
my thought with this is that going to your customers, I always find success with doing things, even reviews or any, getting somebody to be a reference by going to the customer straight. Now, that
Mhm.
doesn't always happen really well in email because I think people just have this mindset of, oh, they're just emailing me like they're emailing a million people. It's an automated generated email and it doesn't matter if I do something with it because it's addressed. It's like that 911 idea where if you say call 911 to 100 people, no one will call 911 because you didn't tell one specific person. So if you say something to a lot of people and they feel like it's a lot of people, they're like, oh, I don't have to do it. It's not my job. But if I go right to customers, like, hey, I'm Mary, it's nice to meet you. I saw that you liked our LinkedIn post or, liked our Twitter tweet or something like that. Or you know, like Pendo, you can run reports from Pendo to see like who's using it the most or who's using your apps the most. So for me, that's one thing that has helped is like really looking at who are the customers that are engaged. Like, can I go into our email program and look at who's actually opening these emails? Can I reach out to people on social media that have liked a lot of the things that we've done or people that have left, reviews and things before? The other thing, like you said, Justine, with the user groups, like if you're there, then building out that relationship a little. And I say building out relationship, but really it's as simple as being like, hi, I'm Justine. Nice to meet you. And just having that personal interaction for a few seconds makes a whole difference in your relationship with people. Um, so, popping into your community and saying hi to someone, I feel like it's an easier way to get people to respond. Is it mass? No. But if you say you scroll through your social media and you see like people have liked something on your social media, you click that open and then hold down control and click on each name and go message them the same message. So you just write, hi, John, nice to meet you. Thanks for liking our post. What did you like about it? And then the people that respond back saying something like, talk to them just a few seconds and then ask them. It's harder because it does take more time, but it's the equivalent of going out and talking to people and having real conversations. And so your companies probably have like educational calls. Ask if you can jump on them. Hey, can I get on these calls every month? Like, what can I ask people to participate in a review? It might be hard to get started, but it adds up quickly because you're building relationships, not just internally, but with your customers too. And so I know it can be difficult, but if you have a lot of like internal structure that you have to kind of force your way through for the different silos and such, it might be easier to just what I do, go to the customer, find whatever programs are going on, show up and be a part of that. Um, Definitely when you get to the point where you can send an email and they're like, oh, I know who this is. This is Mary. She's, helping us out, or she's like, she loves us customers. Be like, hey, can you do this for me? Short messages usually perform so much better. And they also look more personalized. I get messages all the time to leave reviews, and I'm like, no, no, it's only $20. I don't, but I like the swag idea you're talking about too, Julie, because different pieces of swag can be so exciting. Like I shared one today in the newsletter from ThoughtSpot where they have a hat that just says Data Daddy. And I guess it's like a very popular thing for their advocates and customers. Everybody wants a Data Daddy hat. It's a black hat, just two words, Data Daddy, nothing fancy. And that's what they want. And it's so interesting to me because it is those small little different things that can change how your customer sees you. So always look for those creative things. Laudable has that database. I just talked to them yesterday of ways people are using marketing for their customer-led growth. She said that they're always working on that. So they're adding more examples. So I think that can help with reviews. Let's see. Yes, absolutely, Julie. Anytime you want to share anything that you're working on, I can start a new channel in the Slack. We can do private groups, whatever you want. I'm happy to do any of that.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great because yeah, I feel like I use some sort of form of the same verbiage over and over, and would love to see some fresh content.
Yeah, that is too. That's what like gets people to stand out and come across as a little bit different. When you get that email that says something a little different, a little more fun, a little, more focused on something that you like as a person, all of those things. I wonder how sending an email for like the reviews, even from G2, like, and being like, hey, we're doing a campaign to raise X amount of money for this charity. We're donating $20 for each person, and like we'll match it or something like that. Like your donation would be $20 for doing a review. Like even having your review campaign be different like that and focused on something that people care a lot about, I think could drive more excitement and people actually wanting to do something with it.
We actually tried that with G2 because they do have like a matching
Oh,
opportunity.
okay.
They have certain, yeah, they have certain charities, and we picked Girls Who Code. And so we basically set one of those up for customers who can't take incentives, like most of our EMEA customers, and any federal customer can't take incentives, but this way, they can feel like they're doing something, and didn't have a much better response with that either. But
Oh, okay.
again, yeah, I think really the big lesson, as somebody said, is the generic email just doesn't work. It's just like when you get a generic email, people know it's a generic email, sadly.
Mm-hmm. Justine, what were you saying? I tried A/B testing with real person outreach versus using my name in Marketo, and the response rate for the real person outreach was much better. Yeah, that's really good to know. I've heard in the past that for G2, just letting people know that an invite is going to be coming from G2 has helped. I think I had said that to you before, Michelle. I don't know. I don't remember like if you actually tried it or not, but I've heard that from a few people. Leslie Barrett has said that doing a gift card for $30 instead of 25 made a big difference in responses. Hold on, just trying to write down a note. So, yeah, I'm thinking, I know like, well, it might be just a good time to like ask people in general in the community, hey, what are your tips for reviews? I don't think I've done that in a while. Okay, so that was reviews. Anyone want to talk about references? I know Emily's on. She loves talking about references.
Not this week. It's end of quarter for us and they're killing me.
Okay, don't talk to Emily about references until next week.
Till May 1st. No, I'm just kidding. We're actually trying our first one-to-many peer call next week.
Ooh, so will that be for a reference, like a reference group?
Correct. So basically, so we do the peer-to-peer connections that I've spoken about previously, and what is a little bit more unique about our software is that it is like fully end-to-end business software. So it's something that our customers are using all day, every day, constantly. And so it's a very robust product, which means we do have a lot of questions about it. So one of the things that it manages is inventory for our customers. And there's a lot of questions about it, and it's still technically in beta for us. And so we had 10 customers submit requests to talk to somebody else about inventory, and we don't have 10 other customers that are well versed in it enough to do so.
Ooh.
So we've created 2 different calls. We got 2 customers, 1 enterprise, 1 mid-market, that are going to join 2 different hours of calls. And then we got members of our product and enablement team that oversee our inventory product line. And
Mhm.
so customers were then invited to pick which session they wanted to join based on which customer was joining. They would pre-submit questions. And then hopefully it goes well. But yes, we have 2 sessions next Thursday and Friday, and the goal is to knock out 10 requests in 2 hours, which is previously unheard of and would make my life a lot easier if I'm able to actually achieve this. So we shall see.
Yeah.
Quick question, is that for customers or prospects?
So it's for customers. So we do 3 different types of requests, and one of those are peer-to-peer connections, because our software is so robust that
Uh,
a lot of customers have questions about best practices and how to use specific areas of our product. If this goes well, we are looking to branch it out to do a one-to-many with prospects, but figured it's easier to test it with existing customers first.
got it. So it's essentially like a community forum, but over a call almost.
Correct. Yeah. And we have a lot of different ways for these customers to connect with each other. Like they have small groups that they connect in weekly. We have a fully functioning community. But then Service Titan services the trade industry. So HVAC, electrical, plumbing, all of that kind of stuff. And so they're using this software to run their entire business. And so a lot of times they'll have questions of like, I want to speak to someone doing the exact same workflow that I'm doing. And the small groups and the communities and all of that don't always suffice to answer those very niche and specific questions. So that's where we assist with peer calls. And then also, candidly speaking, because the software updates so much and has so many features, the success managers are not always as well versed as I think we would like them to be. And so we become also a support system for them when they don't have the resources or the time to answer those questions.
How did you like market it to customers? Did you call it like a reference call, or did you say like, oh, XYZ is going to be available to answer questions about the product? Like, how did you position it? So I feel
So
like I'm interviewing you.
no, you're all good. You're good. So for our very first one that we're trying here, what we did was it was only available to customers that had pre-submitted reference requests. And so what that means is that their success manager already knew that this was an issue that they needed support with and had submitted a request to our team directly. So we had an invite list of 10 customers and we just sent them direct emails saying, hey, there are a number of you that are having what looks like similar issues. We want to get you guys together. Hopefully you can idea share, but then also speak with a couple experts, both from Service Titan and from, your fellow customers, so that we can tackle product questions as well as practical usage questions. And then we just sent them a survey form to say, what pre-submitted questions do you want to throw in that we'll make sure that we'll tackle during the event. And then had them pick which time they wanted to sign up for. So we would do it a little bit differently if we were sending it to a larger base. But actually what we've done in the past with something similar to this is we actually just send it to the CSMs. And then if they have customers that they know have questions on it, they bring it up to them on success calls and then sign them up for it. And we've actually had a lot of success with that.
Interesting. I really like that.
Yeah, because
a
it's
lot.
also trying to position us as a partner to the success team as well. Because
Mhm.
as we talked about on that call last week, it's sometimes very difficult when they have so many competing priorities. So if we can say, hey, we know your customers are struggling with this area of the product based on the requests that we've seen, here's how we want to proactively tackle that. 9 times out of 10, so many customer success managers are like raising their hands about, 8 or 9 customers they have that are having the same issue. And then they can look really great to their customers too, saying like, hey, I'm going to sign you up for this and I'm going to join too. so that I can see what the solutions are and, get you on with product and with a customer expert and all of that. So I think it kind of helps them look good as well.
That's a
Yeah,
good
totally.
point for like working with your customer success team, like finding opportunities to make them look good. Um, Everybody likes that. So that's a good idea.
And I'm really big on asking them to join, because for me, it's like if your customer is taking the time to learn about this and you don't know enough to help them, clearly by the fact that you've submitted this request on their behalf, then you should
Mhm.
see what the solutions they're being provided are. It doesn't happen as often as I'd like, but that's one of my biggest requirements is, if your customer is taking hours out of their day to sit through this, then you should too.
That's a good point. Um, Back to the prioritization of like the reviews. Did anybody else have anything to share on that? Because I think it's harder when you have like a lot of customers and such a low response rate. It's harder to prioritize those reviews and analyst reports and all of that. I wondered, Emily, if you had anything on that. I know you do the reference program, but you seem to know a lot as well. And maybe Caroline or Chelsea or Melissa, any thoughts?
So for reviews, we partner with our demand gen team. So I don't own it in entirety.
Gotcha.
But I do own the portion that touches all of our advocates. And so I've had success in a couple of different ways, one of them being Pendos. So we have sent Pendo notifications to them. And then because most of these people own their own businesses, reviews are extremely essential to them. So
Mhm.
what we actually did was we crowdsourced and did a number of different surveys asking them what their biggest success was to collect reviews, and we created an ebook out of that. And so then we shared with all of our customers, how important reviews are to you. It's the same for us. Here's how some of our top users collect reviews successfully. And then also, while we've got you, if you could throw us a bone and fill out a review when we send them a link, that would be awesome. So it's kind of saying, you know, you get how essential this is to your business. We're no different, but then also trying to give them um, a little bit of information that can hopefully help them as well, because legally we're not allowed to pay them, which is a real bummer. So we had to try and figure out a way around that. Um, and then the other one is I run a webinar series that I do at least 2 times a month with our advocate network. And so we pick different areas of the product and give them exclusive content. And so they know my name. And so I've done direct email outreach with links asking them to do it. And that's gotten a pretty significant response as well, just because I am a name and an email address that they see a lot.
I am Emily, so that should just about cover it.
Please
Actually,
don't.
it's funny. I'm doing a personal branding, like 30-day course thing. And one of the things they talk about is your reputation, because when you're trying to like connect with all of these customers, it's great if you can connect with them in a few seconds, but you can't always with every customer. And so there's that building a relationship where you can, but also how what your reputation says about you.
Yeah, 100%. And I did run the reference program for DocuSign when I was there. And
Mm.
what I built a partnership out with is we built an automated email that every time there was a lot of red tape and legality that we had to go through to get approval to do this. But every 9 or 10 MPS that we received, the next day they automatically got an email that said, you're happy. Would you be willing to head to G2 and fill out a review? So we were able to build a workflow that it was then a consistent cadence that we just didn't even have to think about, and was
Right.
more evergreen capture rather than panic when Peer Insights is 2 months out and you're trying to email
Yeah.
with a bunch of people.
So that's
Yeah.
what I'm trying to
And
do, Emily. I'm trying to build a workflow where if we get an NPS score, I send them a email from Marketo or something asking them to do a review for us.
can I
Um,
just interrupt just for a
oh, yeah.
second, because that like I don't know if it's a law specifically, but the guidelines that came out last year in like October, November say that we can't do it based on NPS, and I wondered how you are all doing that. Or have you missed it and not seen that?
So I haven't been at DocuSign in a since that came out, so I don't know if that ended up stopping. Um, but I know there was a lot of red tape that we had to go through to get approval to take their email and send them another one based on their response. But I'm not sure since that came out if they maybe stopped
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
just wanted to share that because I think it's easy to miss things like that when you're head down and trying to work and get things done all the time.
We ask, so our NPS is through Pendo, and if we actually just made it so if you fill it out, you automatically get a G2 pop up in the next day or so, saying similar things like, thanks for filling out NPS. Would you also do this? And the hope is that only people who are happy, who know, we actually haven't had awesome success with that yet. So we are looking, it's been in market for a few months and really got only 2 reviews from it so far. So need to look into that a little bit more. But
Is that working with G2 or is it just your
so I know
Pendo?
there is a G2 integration with Pendo, but our security team didn't approve it. For whatever reason, it was something like, if we allow it, they'll be able to see every piece of data we have in Pendo. I don't know. It didn't really make sense because like the G2 team was like, we've never heard this before.
Right.
But like I wasn't versed enough to know what I was talking about. So it just was shut down. So it's just sort of like another Pendo thing with a link. So maybe it probably would be more. I do think it'd be more successful if we had that integration that let people just fill out the G2 form right in the product.
Yeah, because I'm thinking like if you have it for Pendo and only 2 people have done it, like what's the criteria they put in place to have it show up for for your customers to see?
Oh, it's just people who have filled out the NPS form.
Oh, okay. Okay. That makes sense.
But we don't limit it to promoters, is what I'm
Right.
saying. But
Right.
hey, it's not really working, so maybe that's not the right way to do it.
yeah, that's my challenge. We don't have NPS at my company right now, and it's something I want to launch with that. And itself is such a big project. So I'm like, even if we did set up the G2 or the Pendo integration, I'm like, we would need to figure out how to trigger it.
Yeah, that's a good point. We had a call with Jan Young. She's a customer success expert, I call her. She's all over LinkedIn, but she's campaigning very hard for companies to not use NPS, but to use product market fit surveys for customers because she says it gives you more information to go on and more information about your customers. So we have a call about that, but I will say like NPS is just really easy to like everybody knows what it means and it's so easy to just like, yeah, we need an NPS score. Everybody knows. Thank you,
Yeah.
Caroline, for being on and sharing.
I had a question about reviews. I'm curious how people handle bad reviews. We've gotten generally like a pretty positive, score, and like 95% of the reviews are really, really good. But we have a few that are so bad, like just the haters, people who, forgot to cancel and they continued to get billed, or like there's one guy who called Canto like Frankenstein's monster, like crazy stuff. And we've worked to resolve some of the issues. I've responded to them publicly, followed up with them, tried to get them on a call. And sometimes it's successful, sometimes it's not. But like for ones, like for example, one customer is no longer with us. So it's like, how do we can't take it down. I've already tried to. So I don't know. I'm curious if anyone has an experience with that.
Yep.
Yep.
So I put it in the chat, but our trust pilot specifically, we had a rating of a 1.9 a few weeks ago. And everyone panicked, but there were a lot of 1-star reviews and like a lot. Now this is maybe not a solution I recommend, but what we actually had a lot of success with was our CEO responded to them and gave his cell phone number and said, if you want to call me and talk to me directly, please go ahead and do so.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oh, like publicly responded or just emailed them
Yep.
separately?
Publicly.
Wow.
Yeah. Gave like they have an email account that they've created that he responds to. Because our customer sentiment candidly is not super hot right now. There's been a lot of changes and our layoffs have had some pretty significant ripple effects.
Mm.
And so there's a whole new customer service pledge company-wide, all of that. And so the two founders are now doing monthly town halls with all of our customers. They're giving their cell phone numbers, they're giving their direct email addresses, all of that kind of stuff. But that was a lot of the responses we just either from his account or he would respond directly. And the genuine intention behind all of his outreach actually had a really positive response, which I know is
Did anyone call his cell phone number?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So, I mean, not a really time effective or sustainable solution, but it was a band-aid that we tried that actually worked pretty well. We're working on a more long-term solution, so I can keep you posted when we actually figure that out. But that was something that he came up with the idea, so we didn't throw
Yeah,
him.
so it's on him. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right now, our CEO isn't really engaged with our base at all. So that's something I'll think about. Like maybe, not going to that extreme of a measure, but I think that could help. And yeah, like there's one Trust Radius one where we did turn the account around. And I've kind of just been sitting on it because I'm like, do I reach out to her and ask her to update her review, or should I have Trust Radius do it? I don't know. It's kind of like humbling to be like, hey, can you update this really bad review that you left us, because everything is presumably going better now. I don't know. I just kind of dragging my feet on it, to be honest.
Yeah, that would be something. Like, hey, I noticed that I hope we've helped you with the issues that you had when you left your review. Would you consider updating it so that it shows we are proactively working on issues our customers have?
Mhm. Yeah, maybe I'll use Chat GBT, see what it gives me on that.
It's so funny. There's so many people like using Chat GPT for all these things. Somebody messaged me today and it has to do with like your template idea. They were like, "Hey, could you look at this and let me know if you think it's a good cover letter?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's great. That is awesome. I have not seen cover letters like that. That was really good." And she's like, "Yeah, it helps when you start with Chat GPT." And I was like, "Oh, well, I just gave you all that praise for being so smart." You're like, I use Chat GPT, but somebody else in the community is using it for customer emails. Like before they send any emails, they go into Chat GPT, tell it to write the email, and then they just go through, edit it, and send. Like there are a lot of ways to automate things to make it a little bit easier. But I'm not fully bought in yet. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm too old.
Yeah, I use it for like for example, I was having a hard time thinking of like an opener for our April newsletter. So I just like pasted in like the second paragraph and I was like, write a clever opener. And it came back with all these cute little sayings about April showers and happiness and all this stuff. So that's helped me. And summaries for case studies, or like
Ooh,
I saw Leslie
interesting.
posted a suggestion around like if you copy paste in an entire transcript, it'll summarize the case study. But for me, it said it was too long. But I just pasted in like certain responses to certain questions, and I said pull some quotes out of this paragraph, and it worked pretty well for that too. But yeah, it's definitely like trial and error for sure. Like sometimes I'm like, ugh, I'm not gonna be able to use this, but it at least gives you a starting point.
Yeah, yeah. And so have you all tried or used Laudable at all? Anybody? No? Julie, you, Justine?
No.
No?
Oh,
Okay, so I had a call with them yesterday where they showed me something new that they're working on for case studies. And I thought it had to be the most amazing thing. So what it does is they're set up with some I think like through Chat GPT or something, but it basically goes through your Gong, like all of your Gong chats and conversations from your company, and it pulls out the conversations like when you first started working with the company, or like their prospect calls, their call where like you signed stuff, their calls, like all these different calls, and it generates a case study to start with, turns it into like a web page that you can just copy, and like lays out what could be in the case study based on like customer success calls you've had with them. And it just runs through all of your Gong looking for these opportunities based on all of these algorithms that they've put in there, that they like certain words they search for and things like that, and like sentiments and things like that. And then it pops up and it'll be like, you can use this part, gives you the transcripts, but only the parts that it thinks you need, and then makes a few graphics for you to use. And I was like, holy cow, that could just make it so much easier. Instead of doing one case study every month or something, you can do all of these case studies just by searching through your Gong. And for us, like customer marketers, it's hard to have the time to go through Gong, learn all the searches you want to have, find all of that information. So I was like, that is so cool. So if you guys
Yeah,
talk
it's really
to
cool.
Angela at Laudable, tell her that I told you about it. What's that?
Is it LAUDABLE?
Yeah, Laudable. Right now they have two parts. One is like a service where they do like customer videos for you remotely. And then they have this other thing that they're working on. I don't even know what she's calling it, but um I actually thought of you, Michelle, when I saw it. I was like, oh my gosh, that would make life so much easier. But she did say I think it's like 6 to 12,000 a year or something like that, which I'm like, yeah, but if you hired somebody full time to just write case studies, I think Leslie may have tried it because I know she's mentioned something about Laudable at one point, but last year at some point she was like, yeah, we did like 16 case studies in a quarter, and I was like, that is insane. And I don't think she used Laudable for that at all. I know she worked with somebody else, but um yeah, I was just like, I cannot believe they can do all of this. I mean, they still can't replace us, so that's awesome, but to be able to go through all that back content, you know what I should do? I should have her like take all of my calls from last year and just go through and look for good things to put together for why you want to come to the CMA weekly calls. All right, so enough of me blabbering. Does anybody else want to share or talk about any other topics? Let's see, I had written down a few ideas. Oh, so just sharing some examples. I talked about ThoughtSpot. Any other questions we have this month?
I'm sharing a bunch of resources in the chat, but I can also share them after the call if we set up a channel, or just let me know where I should or could post them, Mary, because I'm still trying to find a few of them.
Yeah, I just set up a channel. It's called, I think I added everyone from this call that I could find in the community, Template Copy Share. And that's in the CMA Weekly Slack.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to be mindful because I think some of this stuff, like, I don't know if I'm technically allowed to share it, like the demographic breakdown. So I'll post what I know I can.
Okay, yeah, and you can share anything to me, and I can try to figure out how to share it with people. I'm trying to think
Okay.
within the restrictions that you have.
Yeah,
Because I know, like,
totally.
Daniel once shared something on a call, and he was like, "But you have to message Mary for the link because I'm not just giving it out. So anytime
Mm,
somebody's needed it, I will I'll give them the link or something. But otherwise, he keeps it pretty tight because it still has their branding on it." What's what
got it.
company called, Justine? Laudable?
Yeah, a lot of, okay, thank you.
Yeah. And Angela Ferrante is in the community. Um, she's so nice and so smart. Not that that surprises me. We're all smart, but um, just I hear a lot of things that are the same sometimes. And she had a lot of things to share that were different. And I was like, that's awesome. Let's see. Any other advocacy things we're thinking about? Anybody moving into like an events time of year or something like that?
I have one thing. So I'm working on implementing SLAT 5 at my company, which has been a much bigger task than I had anticipated, to say the least. Um, and I'm sure all of you can relate. Like, there's, probably like 7 spreadsheets of old advocacy related activity that I'm importing into the system. I was talking to my colleague about it yesterday. So I lead customer marketing globally, but I do have 2 people helping me out in EMEA and APAC.
Hmm.
And she asked me like, oh, our account manager is also going to have access to the back end of SLAT 5, so they can update, notes, like engagement notes and things like that. And I told her, no, like, they're going to be using the Salesforce integration. I'm hesitant on giving them another tool that they have to learn. And she goes, well, I don't mean to be rude, but this is another tool that I'm going to have to learn how to use. And I remember to, track activities in. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. You know, we have to track this activity somewhere. And, whether it's a sheet or a tool or whatever it is, it has to be done. So I have to get everyone in that mindset. But I don't know if anyone had any like advice on, just kind of like the change management aspect of using a new process for tracking those types of activities and things like that.
Julie, question for you. When you were talking about that, was it your team member? I'm sorry, or was it a CX person that was struggling?
It was my team member, which is,
Okay.
yeah, which surprised me a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I get it. Like, it's something I'm going to have to get used to too, because right now, when I email someone to ask if they want to participate in a webinar, I'm not used to logging anywhere. So
Mhm.
I understand it, but I don't know. And I told her like, oh, there's different things we could try. Like, for example, you could, just log all of the activities in like your notes app and then just put everything into the system at the end of the week. Like we can explore like whatever workflows would work best for you instead of like having to log into SLAT 5 every time. But yeah, I just want to ensure, the rollout is as pleasant as possible for everyone.
So she,
I
so,
actually implemented SLAT 5 at my last company and it was a year process because I did a ton of enhancements with them because we were really focused on, I had Asana forms for requests for the customer marketing team and a form for nominations from sales, essentially. So marketers had requests to essentially a voice of customer in all kinds of collateral programs, events, campaigns, et cetera. And then sales would be nominating customers. So what I did was integrate those workflows through Zapier. I think now it's Workato to SLAT 5, and focused on building out sort of the project management from initiation of a request or nomination all the way through completion of activity and then documenting of everything, which kind of doesn't exist in a lot of places that I had found. And so we built that out, and it was a lot of work, but it was helpful. And then what I decided to do is I decided to do the training for my team, which was 6 people, instead of having SLAT 5 do it, because I knew the pain points of where my team was struggling. Where was all the manual lift? Where were all those challenges that we had? And I spent a lot of time, but I think it paid off because to your point of how do you combat the things that they're going to complain about, or this is more work, or this is harder. I hit on all of the benefits. So a little lift on the front end will alleviate these 10 things that you struggle with now. And those are going to look different for every program. So I did a 3-part, 3-hour training with some intro slides. And then I put together, I spent time doing little recorded demos for the things that I thought they would use the most. And I found those like really quick hit things that, wow, this is slick, or, oh, now my searchability is huge, or we never could do X, Y, and Z before. So that was the way I approached it, and it made the change management actually pretty smooth for the team.
Wow. That's
That's
amazing.
really helpful. Thank you. So you said you used Asana forms and what else?
So we connected Asana to Slap 5, and then we weren't doing reference management, so we didn't have that Salesforce piece. Trying to think if we connected anything else. Amazing how time flies. I can't remember, but if you have other just general Slap 5 questions, I feel like I got very intimate for a year doing all of that. So I'm happy to share some of I think our use case was a little different than others. And we're getting more of those requests from technology companies to sort of have like a company first approach where the system was built as a member first approach. And for us, it was more of what company does XYZ versus what a member has, which is really about more of the marketing versus the reference management. So, we did a lot of that work. So I'm happy to have a conversation about it if you're interested.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I'm
would love
interested.
to. I'll connect with you. Yeah, because I mean, that makes me feel better. You said it took you a year to fully implement it.
Yeah, and that was definitely like a 2-part game. We had some hurdles in getting some of the security signed off, because part of what we did was before that they had SOC 2. So we sort of did an initial implementation before we could do some of those integrations. But I also really pushed on, and I'm really thankful that we did a lot of enhancements to do. Basically, we wanted it to be more of a project management tool, because who in customer marketing isn't doing project management morning, day, and night? And if you have to do everything in a separate tool, what we wanted to do was get out of Asana and be able to do things in Slap 5. Inspiration allowed that, so that you receive the requests and noms. You literally work everything within there, and then you capture all of the data we built a ton of custom fields. So what's the company data we need? What's the member data we need? And then we used stories, I believe it was, a little differently than others. We didn't use the video component, but rather we decided to capture summary information on every activity in stories. And what that allowed was, it was like a little bit of a database or a Rolodex of who's done what. So if I want to search for a customer that's maybe like an enterprise customer that used a specific technology, I could search in just the search box or filter and quickly find who's already capable of doing that. So I kind of created it as let's have a CRM for customer marketing. So these are everybody that we're working with or we're trying to work with, versus the full Salesforce CRM. And so we did integrate fields from Salesforce. So we had just a one-way push from Salesforce into Slap 5, which was our choice to not do a 2-way bidirectional, just for security reasons. It was easier for me to get that approved. So, I saved I saved the team like 30 fields that you don't have to fill out, that you were manually entering into Asana before, which is what we were using at first. So like that was part of my training to say, yes, we have to switch, and yes, there's work involved in switching to this tool, but now look at how this just flows in through this integration. So that's how I would position, as you think about training, like what are those pain points that you're solving, and lead with those.
Yeah, that's so helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
I'll definitely connect with you afterward. We got Slap 5 in January, and obviously it's like almost May now, and I'm like, it's not implemented yet. And I feel this like, no one's putting pressure on me, but I feel this pressure on myself, because I feel like, it's a lot.
Yeah.
But
It's
yeah,
good to
I'm a firm
remember.
believer in, if you aren't in a place where you're ready to be successful when you launch, then you'll have more problems getting everybody to buy in and getting it to work correctly. So even though it's painful when you want to get it going faster, I had the same thing. I pushed it quarter after quarter and waited for more enhancements each quarter. And, I was getting 7 or 8 things a quarter that were happening. And I feel like it was worth the wait. So if that makes you feel any better, it paid off waiting. I feel like the training I could put together was better. The tools were better. and it was able, all the integrations were done, because I considered before the Salesforce interface was done, integration was done, launching, but then they would have had to manual fill in those fields, or we would have to cleaning up the data to integrate is not easy either. Although Dana was helpful to do that. So hopefully you're getting some CX help there.
Yeah,
I would
the
say
team has been great.
one, I want to be on that call because I love change management and learning more about those things. Thank you, Michelle. And just learning how people do it, because of course we all have our own approaches, and it's a course that I'd like to write at some point.
Oh yeah.
So Melissa, you will definitely be a guest on that.
Oh, sure.
But also remember, I did that vendors satisfaction poll, and over 150 people responded. It is not uncommon for these implementations to take longer than expected. One, not only are you like starting like that, the whole task switching thing and like tool switching thing, and there's pain in that, but it's the processes you're setting up, that change management. It does take time. There, I hear it more in our world than people like to hear, but I have heard 6 months, 9 months, a year, and I still think you're making progress though. Like you're instituting, like putting things in place that will make the whole process easier in the future. And the company that I've heard the best like customer success for, one of them is Slap 5, because they really want people to be successful. So you're probably really in good hands, even if it is more painful than you'd like it to be. Especially if you have things like you're bringing in old data and stuff like that. I've talked to Alexi Glover, because she works for Porter Consulting, and she has said like like bringing in that data, or like when you're leaving and going to a different vendor in our space, like people do not realize how much work that is. So just give yourself some grace, I guess I would say. And
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
yeah, you'll get there. And if you run into things that are awful, of course, share them with me so that I can keep things in mind when I make recommendations in the future. But yeah, I'm really excited to hear like how it goes.
For sure. I will say, I haven't said this in like the no vendors channel because I know people are like screenshotting stuff in there now, but I'm very glad I didn't end up going with base. It ended up being like Slap 5 versus base. And, I've definitely heard a lot in the last few months about people's experiences with base. So yeah, I've been really happy with the Slap 5 team so far. And that's a big reason of why I did go with them, is because I knew I would need that support since I'm a one-person team. So yeah, only good things in regards to their service and all of that.
Yeah, and let me know, like, if you want to talk to more Slap 5 customers, I can go through my lists of people. I probably have around 200 people that I know what tool they're using. But I can reach out to people and be like, hey, do you want to be in a Slap 5 like channel on the community thing, and make it a private one so that others can't see it. And I don't expect that we'll be having more screenshot incidents, because I've told the vendors involved that is a violation of the privacy of the community, and that even if they're offered that stuff, they should turn it down. So
Yeah.
we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, definitely.
I can let you all go. This was a really great call. I'm so glad you all jumped on, had so much to share. And if you check out Laudable, just let her know I sent you, because I think it's awesome, and I want her to know that like I think it's awesome.
Will
Okay.
do.
All right. I will see you all on Slack.
Sounds
Thanks, everybody.
good. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.